Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome to the FY27 Lottery for Education After School Programs Grant Competition Technical Assistance webinar. As a disclaimer, the state of Tennessee does not currently permit the use of AI tools. AI tools are not adequately regulated, and we please ask that you respect our decision to safeguard information. I'd like to start with introducing our extended learning team. My name's Anessa Ladd, and I'm the Extended Learning Grant Manager for both 21st Century and LEAPs Grants. This is Mario Pennington, and he is the Federal Grants Manager. And then we also have Artina Fawcett, who's the Administrative Assistant. We do have a lot to cover today. On our agenda, we'll be going over application resources, the program overview, the application and review process, the application components, charter school applicants, ePlan instructions, and we will end the call with next steps and resources. Application resources. So before we get started, I wanted to point out a very important resource, the FY27 LEAPs Request for Application, also known as the RFA. Within this application document, you will find timelines, program requirements, a detailed application and budget instructions, and needed related documents. This document will be available in ePlan under TDOE resources when the application opens in ePlan on February 1st. If you try to click on this link now, it will take you to a blank page. So just know that that will not be available until February 1st. This slide shows application resources and where they're located on ePlan. So to find the FY27 LEAPs application, you will go to Funding and Application and Grants. You will select Extended Learning Programs, 21st Century and LEAPs Documents, and FY27 LEAPs.
I don't think we're seeing the slides that you're talking about. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Mario,
can you see my slides?
Yes, I can see all your slides that you're sharing.
I can see your slides. So there are people who can't. You may check your browser, make sure that you have enough internet speed, but we can see the slides. It's
okay,
I can see them.
Thank you, Nikki. Looks like most people can see them, so it might be on your end.
Will this be recorded so that I can maybe have access to the slides later then?
Yes, it will be recorded and the slides will be available as well.
Thank you. So sorry.
You're welcome. Okay, so this slide does show where the application is available in ePlan. And once the application opens on February 1st, you'll be able to find all these documents that you would need, including the PowerPoint from today's presentation. Okay, so we're going to start with the program overview. In November 2002, Tennesseans voted to create a state lottery. As part of that state lottery, it was decided that 100% of monies from unclaimed prizes would be deposited into an after-school account, thus forming the LEAPs Grant. The Tennessee Department of Education is responsible for implementing the competitive grant process and the oversight of these funds. The overall goal of LEAPs is to provide Tennessee students with enrichment opportunities that reinforce and complement the regular academic program during non-school hours or during periods when school is not in session. Under the law, all LEAPS programs must meet a few requirements. Such programs must include services to students for 15 hours per week for 160 days per year. It must include reading skills development, math or science skills, academic mentoring or tutoring, and structured physical education opportunities. Grant funds shall be used to supplement, not supplant, non-lottery educational resources for after-school educational programs and purposes. Eligible applicants for LEAPs to apply include school districts, community-based organizations, and faith-based organizations, and other public or private organizations proposing to serve students in Tennessee are eligible to apply for funding. Grants will not be awarded to fund startup organizations or programs. Applicants who currently receive either 21st Century or LEAPs are eligible to apply. However, the department will not allow applicants to use both LEAPs and 21st Century funding at the same location, nor allow LEAPs to apply for sites currently served by an existing 21st Century grant. So what this is saying is you can't have two programs in one location, and if you are currently have both, if you have a 21st Century grant and you want to apply for LEAPs, you can't include any sites that are still being served by 21st Century. Eligible participants. It must be youth 5 to 18 years old, kindergarten through 12th grade. We cannot serve pre-K in LEAPs. 50% of the students enrolled must meet one of the following criteria. They must qualify for free or reduced lunch, be at risk of educational disadvantage due to abuse, neglect, or disability, be at risk of state custody, be enrolled in a public school that is failing to make adequately yearly progress, be attending a public school, including a public charter school, instead of a public school failing to make as a result of parent choice, be at risk of failing one or more subjects, or behind grade level by at least 1 year. Program priorities. You will be applicants who meet these program priorities will receive bonus points. The first program priority is to serve students who primarily attend elementary schools, K through 5. To receive priority points, the application must propose serving elementary schools only, unless the school is a combined school, say a K6, K7, or K8. If the application is for a combined school, the project must include a primary focus on interventions targeting elementary school grades, K through 5. Number 2, you need to serve students in the following counties who have had limited extended learning programs for the past 4 years or more. And number 3, serve students in the following distressed counties. Program hours. Programs must be in operation a minimum of 15 hours per week. We have target participation that we set for different grade bands. For K through 5, we're looking that that students are enrolled 90 plus hours. In grade 6 through 12, 45 plus hours. Programs must be in operation a minimum of 160 days per year during the months of August through May. Summer is optional and does not count towards the 160 minimum days. Programs must be fully operational by September 1st each year. All programs must provide services in a manner consistent with state child care guidelines. You must work with the department's early learning division to receive a certificate of approval for operations or a child care certificate. All programs must be fully operational and serving students by September 1st. In addition, there are certain insurance requirements for all LEAPs grantees. All awardees must maintain technical professional liability and cyber liability insurance of $1 million and crime insurance of $1 million. These requirements are in addition to other common insurances such as workers' compensation and automobile liability insurance. State performance targets and local evaluation requirements. The department has established a set of performance goals and indicators as part of the statewide evaluation of LEAPs programs. All LEAPs programs must collect and report outcome data and participate in local evaluation process at 3 points each year: initial, mid-year, and end of year. The performance goals for this application were based on statewide data collected during our program years. Indicators are tools that will be used to measure progress towards the goals. So now we're going to take a few moments to look at the 7 performance goals that are pre-established for the LEAPs grantees. Goal number 1, all students will reach high academic standards, demonstrating growth in reading, language arts, and mathematics. Goal number 2, all students will reach high academic standards, demonstrating growth in all subjects. Number 3, the percentage of students who are chronically absent from school will decrease. Number 4, all students will exhibit positive behavior changes that support academic and social growth. Goal number 5, all students will continuously be engaged in their learning. Number 6, family engagement will be embedded in the entirety of the program. And lastly, goal number 7, early learners, which is K through 2, will reach high academic standards, demonstrating growth in reading. As part of being a LEAPs grantee, you will be expected to participate in local evaluation. Data that informs local evaluation reporting can be found from our database system, which is called TN-ELAP, surveys, and data from the school district, such as early literacy screeners. Each program is required to develop at least one performance measure with outcomes for performance goals 1 through 5 as part of the local evaluation. To assist with the local evaluation, best practice is to form a local evaluation team of stakeholders to charge with this effort, including the initial development of the SMART goals and the final evaluation of whether goals are being met. At a minimum, the team should consist of the project director and all the site directors. Grant awards and renewability. This grant is a competitive grant and it's awarded for 3 years, providing that the project is achieving the desired outcomes for the students being served. LEAPs grants are non-renewable. Therefore, if you're a current grantee under LEAPs, you do have to reapply and compete to continue your funding. Awards are based on a per pupil allocation, and this has changed. We have increased this to $2,000 with a minimum award of $50,000 and a maximum award of $500,000. All awards are based on the availability of funding. If awarded, the organization must serve at a minimum the expected number of regular attendees, as indicated by the following funding formula. The total grant award divided by 2,000 per student equals the number of regular attendees to serve. Again, the regular attendee is as follows. For K through 5, it is a student who attends 90 plus hours. And for students in grades 6 through 12, it's 45 plus hours per year for middle and high school students. So when you do your funding formula and you get the number of regular attendees to serve, only students who meet those requirements will be counted in that number. Grantees not serving the expected number of students and/or not making significant progress towards performance goals may lose all or a portion of their funding. In addition, all grantees will have to participate in compliance monitoring. The monitoring process will either be a desktop or on-site. On-site monitoring, grantees are selected based on their risk assessment data. The monitoring tool is housed within the ePlan online grants management system. Desktop monitoring, one LEAPs grantee will be selected per month for desktop monitoring. Selected grantees must provide all supporting documentation for a single reimbursement request. And if any unallowable costs are found, a corrective action letter will be issued citing the amount of the unallowable cost. Now we will start our next section of looking at the actual application and the review process. Steps to apply. The first step is to complete the notice of intent to apply by Friday, January the 30th. As mentioned previously, you will be completing this application in ePlan online. You will not have access to ePlan unless you have completed the notice of intent to apply. So this is a very important step. Applications must be submitted in ePlan by the due date. Applications who do not currently have access to ePlan must submit their information on the notice of intent to apply. Review process. All complete meeting the program and received by the due date, which is April 10th by 11:59 p.m. Central Time, will be forwarded to a peer review committee. This grant is highly competitive. Applicants should ensure that all guidelines and requirements are met before submitting. The committee will provide each applicant with a technical merit score based on the review criteria and rubric. Technical merit scores will serve as the foundation for grant award decisions. A copy of the scoring rubric can be found in Appendix A of the RFA. A new applicant is an agency that has not received either a 21st Century or LEAPs grant within the last 5 years. Grant award decisions for new applicants will be based on 3 key factors: the technical merit of each proposal, the number of applications received, and the proposed region/communities served by the new applicant. The department reserves the right to limit the number of 5 applicants to a maximum of 5. An existing applicant is an agency that has received either a 21st Century or LEAPs grant within the last 5 years. Grant award decisions for existing applicants will be based on the peer review score and previous grant cycle performance. Overall peer review scores will be reduced based on the prior negative performance, including failure to serve the expected number of regular attendees, failure to complete and submit all TDOE local evaluation reports on time, failure to meet 90% of the data quality checks, and failure to expend 90% of funds from the previous award cycle. Use of AI in the application preparation. The use of AI tools to prepare application narratives is strongly discouraged for this grant competition. AI tools cannot provide local context, community data, or authentic stakeholder input needed for a strong LEAPs application. Successful applications show deep knowledge of local needs, realistic plans, and meaningful engagement. If awarded, applicants will be held responsible for all commitments and descriptions in their application. Over-reliance on AI may result in applications that lack specific requirements, misrepresent capacity, or fail to meet program requirements. This chart here shows our application timeline. So the first due date is your intent to apply due, which is January 30th. Applications will open February 1st on ePlan, and we will also begin weekly office hours on February 3rd. Applications are due in ePlan on April 10th. The peer review process will take place during the months of April and May. And the notifications to all applicants, whether you are awarded or not, will take place in July. So next, we're going to go through each of the different sections of the application and talk about everything that is required. The application section includes 10 different sections. The first, the overview. There's nothing for you to do on this sheet, but this sheet just provides you the different status and also provides resources and then contact information if you have questions. Next, we have the cover page. On this page, you will be providing us with some basic information about your organization. You will start by entering the name, official address, and website of your organization. Next, you will list the Extended Learning Project Director's name, their email address, and phone number. You will use the drop-down box to select the organizational type. Check the box to indicate if the application is a joint application between an LEA and a CBO. List the proposed sites, and for each site, you will complete the table that shows the proposed number of students, the grade span to be targeted, the site location, and check the box to indicate if the school is a Title I or TSI or additional targeted improvement school. The next section is a comprehensive needs assessment. I will say, if you are a previous applicant, make sure you pay attention to this section because it is different. So don't cut and paste from your last application because you will not be answering the questions correctly. So in this section, the applicant must describe the process used to identify needs and resources, including the sources of data used, the key stakeholders who were involved, the process of how the data was analyzed to translate findings into a defined set of needs, the needs of the community to be served, the needs of the proposed participating schools and students, and the community resources that have been identified. Next, we will move to the largest section of the application. It is worth 40 points in the overall grant review. There are 8 key areas in the project logistics and design section. Prior history implementing an extended learning program, student recruitment and retention, nutritional programs and physical activities, your family engagement, your program schedule, your transportation plan, performance goals and indicators, including local evaluation, and finally, the program timeline. And the first part is the prior history implementing an extended learning program. This will be different based upon if you're considered a new applicant or an existing. So make sure you pay attention to the guidelines we provided earlier in the PowerPoint. If the applicant has operated an out-of-school program within the past 5 years, the applicant must identify the new project components within the application. If the applicant has not operated an out-of-school program, therefore being a new applicant, evidence must be provided that otherwise demonstrates experience or the promise of success in providing educational and related activities that will complement and enhance the academic performance, achievement, assessment, and monitoring and positive youth development of the students. Student recruitment and retention. In this section, you will describe who will be served and the process for student recruitment and retention. You will describe what data will be used to determine student participation in the program. So here you're really going to take a deep dive into what your target population is and how you're going to recruit those students. Nutritional programs and physical activity. You will describe how snacks will be provided and the type of physical activity that will be offered to students. You do need to provide a healthy snack daily, and you also will be required to include a minimum of 60 minutes per week of participation in structured physical activities. This does not include just going out into the playground, which would be unstructured. We want you to include 60 minutes per week of structured physical activities. Family engagement activity. Describe how the program will offer family engagement activities to support the advancement of students' academic achievement and social development. Programs may also provide educational services such as family literacy activities or job training classes to adult family members of students participating. Grantees are required to offer 12 hours of programming annually at each site. So if you have 3 sites that you're going to be applying for, all 3 sites need to have 12 hours per year of family engagement. And that this program should also include the mandatory extended learning parent orientation. And the 12 hours does not include the general family engagement events hosted by the school. Next, we have our program schedule. These are simple tables that you will use to indicate what grade levels you will be serving and the number of hours you will be open each week. For each grade level, indicate if the program will be provided before school, after school, or during the summer break, applicants on transportation. Like the total number of hours per week for you. Describe the process for the safe transportation of participants and include details about bus transportation, parent pickup, or walking. So in this section, you will simply say what your transportation plan is. If you're not going to be providing busing and you're only going to have parent pickup, then that's what you're going to say. If you're going to allow students to be parent pickup or walk home, then you need to tell us about that process. We're going to look at the performance goals and indicators that we discussed earlier. In this section, you will complete the tables to describe the following: specific program activities that will be implemented to address each performance goal and target, the relevant professional development activities for each goal, and how progress towards each performance goal will be communicated with stakeholders. So here is a picture of the actual performance goals and indicators chart. You can see that you have your activities, your professional development, and how you're going to communicate the results. You will complete one of these for all 7 goals. The performance goals are based on grade levels. Points will not be deducted because the organization does not serve a particular grade span. For example, in performance goal number 1, if you are not serving students in grades 4 through 8, then you're still gonna answer that chart questions for performance goal number 1, but you're just gonna describe the reading and language arts and math activities for all students. So you would say, what are you doing for reading for your grades K through 3rd? What are you doing for math? What PD are you providing? So please make sure you do not leave any of the goals blank and you answer all of them.
All right. And the next section is the project timeline. In this section, you will describe the project timeline for the first year of the program. You'll have to delineate when activities will begin, your project milestones, and the responsible parties. The project milestones must be based on the proposed activities that will be implemented to achieve the performance goals. It is not necessary to identify all project activities. Here's an example below where you're showing the date, project milestones, such as hiring your site directors for each program location, and the responsible party to your right. Next slide, please. All right, the next section, which is worth 10 points, is the partnership section. The applicant should describe how partnerships have or will be formed to carry out the project goals and how they'll be used to defray cost and leverage your funds. The applicant should describe the services offered by the partner, the frequency of such services, and the frequency of the meetings. We don't want you to simply say we're going to work with ABC Nonprofit. We want you to say ABC Nonprofit is coming to provide tutoring services every other Thursday, and we will have partnership meetings quarterly or however you come up with in your partnership. The applicant should upload the memorandum of agreement with the school district from participating schools and the statement of collaboration and partnerships forms in the related documents section. The next section is your sustainability, which is worth 10 points. In this section, applicants are asked to describe the process for continuing the project after grant funding is no longer available. The plan should be very detailed and include a list of in-kind contributions that include the source, approximate dollar amount, as well as details of any proposed program income or sliding fee scales. And general statements about, well, we're just going to look for other grants will not be considered sufficient. We talked about these earlier, but this is what they're worth. Your competitive priority point 1, which is worth 6 points, is given to applications that propose to serve students in elementary schools K through 5. To receive the priority points, the applications must propose to serve elementary schools only, unless the school is a combined school, i.e. K through 6, K through 7, and K through 8. If the application is for a combined school, the project must include a primary focus on interventions targeting elementary schools grades K through 5 for the competitive priority points. Competitive priority point number 2, which is worth 3 points, is we're trying to expand and make sure that we're covering the entire map. And if you're in one of these listed counties, you would be given comparative priority points worth 3 points. Benton, Chester, Dixon, Franklin, Hardin, Henderson, Houston, Macon, Moore, Montgomery, and Ray counties. And our final competitive priority point, Tennessee's most distressed counties. This competitive priority point is worth 3 points, and it is for Bledsoe, Clay, Cock, Grundy, Hancock, Hardeman, Haywood, Lake, Perry, Pickett, and Scott. If you are writing a grant from those locations or to serve in those locations, you will receive a competitive priority point of 3 points. Now on to the budget. The budget has 2 major components. The first one is the line items. Line items are, they'll say line item number, and it will describe what it is. So like line item 429 is instructional supplies. Line 355 is for travel. That's where you will put, that's how you would describe where you're putting the money. But within that, there's the budget narrative. Your budget narrative is where you describe why the expenditure is needed, the dollar amount, and how it was calculated. You can't simply say instructional supplies, $10,000. You'll need to break it down per site and show how it was calculated and detail what you would like to actually purchase. You have to show the math. If you're buying, if you're having teachers, you can't simply say we're going to have 20,000 available for teachers. We need to see their hourly rate, how many hours they're working per week, how many at each school, and you have to break them down by schools. And multi-site applicants must clearly describe how staffing will be spread across the proposed sites. Here's a few key things to consider when preparing your project budget. The per student allocation, as Anessa mentioned earlier, it is raised, is now $2,000 per student. The minimum award for our grant is $50,000 per grant, and the maximum award is $500,000, and this is annually per grantee. And you have to make sure within your budget that you are supplementing, not supplanting. Funds received under this program may only be used to supplement and not supplant non-lottery educational resources for after-school educational programs and purposes. More key things to consider. These things are allowable costs, and they also must be reasonable, necessary for the performance or administration of the project, applicable to a particular cost objective, and they have to be legal and authorized under state and local laws, consistent with uniform policies of other state and locally funded activities, consistent with the generally accepted accounting principles, and adequately documented. More things to consider. In this budget, you need to detail which employees will be working directly with students and which staff members will be performing administrative tasks. There is a cap on administrative cost. So your people who are not serving students, that cap is 20% of the grant. The the goal of the grant is more to fund people who are working directly with students, not necessarily C-suite employees. For full-time equivalent employees, the applicant must explain the process for determining what percentages of the employee's time will be spent on grant activities, and the applicant must clearly describe how all staff, including agency administrators, if applicable, will support the achievement of the project goals. So everyone who's being paid has to bring something to the grant. They're working with the grant. Other things to think about, you will have to attend professional development, so make sure that you budget to send a representative to state trainings and meetings. You should look at the child care guidelines related to staffing and professional development to make sure that you're staffed adequately and you're meeting your professional development requirements. Technology. All technology items must be approved by extended learning staff prior to purchase, but in this grant currently, you're allowed to purchase up to 15 items per project year at $1,000 per item, no more than 1,000. So that is up to $15,000 for technology items. Okay. Program fees and income. The priority of the LEAPs program is to serve students attending low and low performing schools. To ensure equitable access to high quality after school programs, LEAP programs may not charge fees and or generate program income for any services or activities supported by this grant. This includes but not limited to enrollment or participation fees for students or families, charges for materials, supplies, meals, or transportation, and fundraising activities that result in income directly tied to LEAPs funded programs. And this is the only exception to that when it comes to program fees and income. The policy is for programs that participate in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Child Care and Development Fund. In such case, a program program income may be permitted in accordance with the CCDF guidelines and state approved plans, but programs operating under this exception must still ensure that services remain accessible and equitable. So with this, you'll have to have pre-approval for project income with vouchers. If a grantee intends to request approval to generate program income under the CCDF exception, the following must be submitted to the department: a written justification outlining the purpose and the use of proposed income, a description of how the program will ensure no child is excluded due to inability to pay, a sliding fee scale, and scholarship plan for families in financial need. Subgrantees must request approval from the department for this exception. Requests must be submitted in the related document section of the application by the due date of April 10th, 2026. All requests must be reviewed by the department, and applicants must receive written approval prior to implementation. So make sure that if you are awarded this grant, you receive written approval prior to implementing any type of program income and fees. And here's the related documents that will need to be uploaded. Everything listed here will need to be done by all applicants: your statement of collaboration and partnership forms, your most recent audit or financial review. If you have not had a financial audit or review within 2 years, within the past 2 years, then you can submit a copy of your organization's operating budget, your memorandum of agreement, and your LEAPs 1-year budget spreadsheet. For CBOs only, CBOs, you'll have to upload your 501c3 determination letter and your IRS 990. And anyone who's trying to generate program income under the CCDF exception, you'll have to upload that documentation here as well. And make sure with the assurances that you read the assurances, you click the boxes to certify the information in the application and enter the name of the applicant agency administrator and certify the date before you submit.
Okay, so the next section we're going to talk about a little bit, it's not a section, but how charter school applicants are different. So if you are a charter school, the application process will vary slightly from a regular LEA. So a charter school applicant will apply under the LEA. The LEA is responsible for letting charter schools know about this opportunity. If you have any charter schools who would like to apply to host a program, the application process will vary slightly. What we ask is that the district make sure that they provide any charter applicant with the proper contact information for the person in the district who is responsible for this application and who will be submitting it in ePlan. We ask that the charter school team complete all of the components of the application, including the budget, and save it to a PDF. Then we ask that the charter school submit the application to the appropriate district personnel, and the district personnel should upload the application to the related document section of the application. If the charter school is awarded funding, then the district would act as the fiscal agent and work with the charter to prepare and submit a revised budget within the application and ePlan. Now I'll be handing it over to Artina to discuss ePlan instructions.
ePlan is the grant management program that you will use to apply. And if you are awarded funding, you will do all of your items, your reimbursements, your monitoring, and any budget revisions. In order to, and this is as in order for you to gain access to ePlan, you will need to complete a notice of intent to apply. All grantees, old and new, need to complete the notice the notice of intent to apply. Using the notice of intent to apply, this is how your roles will be signed and given for each of the roles that you need to have everything approved through for your grant. If you don't have access to ePlan, again, you'll need to complete that intent to apply form and make sure that you have a person in the role of grant director, fiscal representative, and authorized agency representative. If you are a current grantee, you already have this structure set up, and that is what will apply when if you apply for this grant. And if you do not have all of those three roles, the peer review process won't begin for your grant unless all three roles are approved in your application. ePlan does not work well with Edge, so please use Chrome and Firefox. There is not a back button in ePlan, so if you need to go to a previous section, go the save and go to or blue boxes. You can find that blue box at the top of your screen and at the very bottom of your page. So click on those to go to a previous section. When you are working on the application, click on Help for Current Page to access ePlan and application helpful hints. Make sure you save your work before you move to the next page. If you click on the Save and Go To blue box, it will automatically save for you. You need to save frequently because the system times you out after 30 minutes. On the left-hand side of your screen, at the bottom of your computer screen, you'll see the countdown clock. So if you see that countdown clock nearing, go ahead and hit Save and Go To. If you are interrupted for some reason, hit Save and Go To. But please, please, please save often. So this is what it'll look like when you go to eplan.tn.gov and you're going to click using your email address. The email address is what you will use, and that's based upon what you put in on the intent to apply form. So you'll put your email address in. You will get an automatic generated email from ePlan management if you are new, and you will reset your password and you'll put that password in and you'll hit the submit button. Everything that you need can be found on the blue navigation column that's located on the left-hand side of your screen. So when you first log in, you're going to go to funding, and then you're going to click funding applications. This is where you'll find your LEAPs grant for you when you go to apply. Be sure to select 2027. So this funding, this grant opportunity is for the next fiscal school year. So select 2027, and then you will see Lottery for Education, After School Programs, the link, and you'll select that. You shouldn't see anything else on your page if you are a new grantee, and if you are a current grantee, you shouldn't see too much under 2027. When you go and you select LEAPs, and that's the way that you open your grant application, you will see all of these different links. So in order to get back to this page, if you want to go back to this page, remember to always click Save and Go To. And then this is how you come back to your home page and you can click on the links. If you are doing your grant and you're not necessarily filling it out in order, you can click on the links as you need to and as you get the items together and you're ready to add. And you'll just click on each link to add your content for your application. It is important that you make sure that you change the status to draft started. If you do not change status to, then what'll happen is your application will be grayed, and then you will email us and say, well, I can't type anything in. If you can't type anything in, it's generally because you either don't have access to ePlan or you have not changed the status to draft started. And make sure that as you are sending your application through for your approvers, in your agency to approve, make sure you change status to, and you make sure that link is the correct link and in the correct status for your application to advance. And importantly, to advance to where it can get to the peer reviewers. When you do your budget, we don't know how much we're going to do. So you can make your budget. You could do your budget two ways. You can do it with just one item, with a penny and ePlan. And then you can do your budget on a spreadsheet. And as Mario mentioned earlier, you need to be thorough with your budget. And you can upload it to the related documents page. And if you are awarded funding, then you will go in and revise your application in ePlan. And then you'll go through the process of having that approved if you are awarded. When you decide to do your budget, there are two ways that you can do your budget. You can do it via a spreadsheet, and you will upload that template. There's a template. There'll be a link in the PowerPoint for that template, and you will upload that template to your related documents page. Or you can complete the budget in ePlan, and you can download the file, and then you'll go through the process of deleting all the items, creating your new budget, and then when all of your other application pages are complete, you can submit the application. It is important when you get this PowerPoint, make sure that you go to this page and that you click on the instructions and the RFA so that you can do your budget properly. Please, please, please go back and take some time and review this before you submit your budget. If you choose to do it in ePlan, you'll click on the budget link. And again, before you start working in your application, please take a few minutes to just familiarize yourself with the instructions and what we're looking for and how to do that. You will go in and you'll click the modify. So you'll see where it's highlighted, where it shows modify. So you'll go in there and you'll go in to make changes. If you cannot make changes and your boxes are gray, it's for two reasons. Either you don't have access to ePlan or you have not changed the application to draft started. It is important that you check those two things and problem solve before you get frustrated and you can't figure out why you can't work and modify your application. When you go in to do a budget, you're going to click Add Budget Detail. And then you're going to use the drop-down menu to put what you want your money to go towards. And be mindful that it can only be for allowable budget items and only for things that are appropriate and direct services for your students for your grant. You're going to enter the quantity and you're going to enter the cost. And ePlan will automatically calculate for you. You don't need to enter anything in the box for optional program code. And your budget can be edited as long as your application is in the draft stage. This is what Mario mentioned earlier. So you want those peer reviewers to understand what you want to spend your money on. So you want to put a narrative description in there that details how the funds will be spent and how you came to that calculation. So we don't want to see we're going to spend $20,000 in teachers. What kind of teachers? How often are the teachers working? How many sites do you have? So you need to be detailed in your narrative description. And make sure you show the math. The related documents section, this is where all of those items that Mario mentioned earlier must be uploaded. And I recommend that you title your documents the same way as the item is that you're uploading. So if you're uploading a statement of collaboration, partnership, title your document the same way so that the reviewers are crystal clear about what item it is that they're looking at. Each of those items have a template, so you'll just click on the link to download the template, scan and save that template to your computer so that you can go back and find it later when you need to re-upload it. And you're going to click on New Upload, Upload New under the document link heading. There'll be a blank box when you upload your documents for you to type in or copy and paste the title of your document. And again, recommendation is that you title it the same way that the template is so that the peer reviewers clearly understand what document you're referencing. When you go in to upload your documents, you're going to click select, you're going to upload the document, and where it says document name, that's where you can just grab, copy and paste right up there at the top of your screen. You can copy that and put that in the document name. If you have more than one item, then you'll want to denote the different ones. And then once you do that, you're going to click create. You may get validation messages. If it's a warning, you can ignore. If it is an error, ePlan will not allow you to go forward. It will not allow you to click draft completed. So you must go in and clear that error. If you're missing a document, if you're missing something that's required, it will not allow you to proceed. So again, warnings you can ignore, errors you must correct. So before you are ready to get your application go through the approval process, you need to change it to draft completed. And you want to check for any validation errors. The validation errors are there so that you can so that the application is complete and there isn't anything missing before you submit. Once you have everything uploaded, you have your budget, you feel confident in everything, and you're ready to submit it, you need to go back to that change status link and change it to draft completed. As long as it's not been, if you need to make any changes and edits or anything like that, you can do that as long as it's not in draft completed. Once you change the status to draft completed, it's in the process of making its way through the approvals at your agency and making its way to the peer reviewers. After you click draft completed, be sure that each person in your approval chain has done their part and changed the status to the correct status. And the people that are listed in your intent to apply form, those are the ones that will have roles to do this for your agency. It is important that if you make sure that your application is LEA authorized representative approved before it goes forward to the peer review committee. If it is not in that status, it will not be forwarded to the peer reviewer. And every year we have a grantee who does not do that and their application doesn't roll forward. There are going to be resources within your application. The RFA will be there. Anything that is helpful and useful to you will be there, and you can click on those resources within the application and download those documents. Now, when you're ready to submit your application, this is what the flow is going to look like. You're going to, as you begin to edit your application, you're going to change that status link to draft start. When you've done draft start, you've uploaded all your items, you've uploaded all of your related documents, you've done your budget, you're confident, you're ready to submit it. Then you're going to go back and you're going to change the status to draft completed. Once you do draft completed, then your fiscal representative, again, these are the email addresses that you list on your intent to apply form. Your fiscal representative is going to go in and approve. And once your fiscal representative approves, then the person that you list as the authorized representative will go into approve. Once that is in that status, and it must be in that status on the deadline, then it will be forwarded over to the peer reviewers.
Okay, Next, we're going to go over some, as we're wrapping up, we're going to go over some next steps and resources. Next steps, make sure you submit your notice of intent by January 30th. Read the entire RFA document and ePlan application. Send questions about the application to extended.learning@tn.gov or join us for our technical assistant opportunities through the months of February and March. And remember that your application must be submitted in ePlan by 11:59 p.m. Central Time on April 10th, 2026. And as a reminder, it has to be an LEA authorized rep approved status to be considered on time. We also will have resources linked for you at the end of this slide deck, including the RFA, the notice of intent to apply, technical assistance opportunities, information about your child care program, and budget instructions. As a note, please note that the FY27 RFA will not be available until February 1st. If you click on this link, it will take you to a blank page until February 1st. Please send any questions to this email address, and then this will also provide you with a link for the technical assistance opportunities. We would like to take just a few moments for you to use the screen, and you can use your phone and take a picture of this and complete a short survey on how our professional development concerning this webinar, your thoughts on it. So if you would please take a few moments to do this. I'm going to leave it up on the screen. While you're doing that, I would suggest, since you'll be doing your ePlan online, your application in ePlan online, you might want to do your document, answer the question in a Microsoft Word or application like that, and cut and paste it. That way you never lose your information if you're not saving adequately. So that's just a little tip to help you make sure that you're not having to do extra work. So always complete it in a document and then cut and paste. I'm going to give you just a few more minutes to conduct the the survey. And we're going to go back. We did skip the slide accidentally on
Indirect costs and
indirect cost.
I'll cover it
I'm going to get
as soon
that
as you.
pulled up.
Yeah, I can go back and cover it. Okay, slide 57. Key things to consider when preparing the budget. Indirect cost. All right, indirect costs are liable under this grant. The department has given the authority by the U.S. Department of Education to negotiate indirect cost proposals and to approve indirect cost rates for school districts. The department will allow state universities, state colleges, private colleges and universities, and non-governmental agencies to charge an indirect cost rate up to 8% You notice that it is up to 8% or the agency's restricted rate approved by the appropriate cognizant agency. So if you do not have approval by an appropriate cognizant agency, the indirect cost rate will be up to 8%. LEAs already have a negotiated cost rate with the state of Tennessee. This is more, I guess, for CBOs. If awarded funding, the department will collect from the agency a copy of their current negotiated restricted indirect cost rate plan that the appropriate cognizant agency has approved. So indirect costs are allowable up to 8%, and you can go higher if the agency's restricted rate is approved by the appropriate cognizant agency. And LEAs already have a negotiated rate on file with the state of Tennessee. So this is more for CBOs.
Okay, we want to thank you so much for your time and your interest in the LEAPs grant application process. Again, if you have any questions or need assistance, please let us know. And we thank you and we hope you have a great rest of your day.